I'm good. I'm just going to tell you.
Okay. My name is Rick Ulfik, and I'm founder of We the World and the We campaign at we.net. And I'm the co-creator of 11 Days of Global Unity with my dear friend, Troy Lush. You can find out about all of the 11 Days of Global Unity broadcasts and events by going to we.net. And we invite you to collaborate with us as a volunteer or an organization partner as well. Just go to we.net. And today we are focusing on economic justice. We have a very exciting panel, and to give us the context for it, let's hear from Jana Larsen. And Jana Larsen is the coordinator for We the World's campaign for economic justice. She does so many different things. It would take the whole session to tell you all of the different things that she does for We the World. But I do want to say that she's also working with the Poor People's Campaign in Ohio. So take it away, Jana Larsen.
Well, thank you, Rick. I don't do near as much as a lot of other people with We Do, but I'm happy to do what I do. So anyway, thank you. And yes, I'm the coordinator for the Economic Justice Campaign and volunteer coordinator, outreach, admin, that sort of thing. And I have assembled some of my friends, my new friends here to come join us. The first person is Mary Aguilera, who I know from Poor People's Campaign. So I've known her a bit now. And then there's Julie, who's gonna, I don't know very well, but I've have met her in meetings, and she's gonna be a big part of Poor People's Campaign. And also there's Sage Lewis from Akron, which is near me. And he was a Facebook friend, and that's how I got brave enough to reach out to him, because it was his birthday and to see if he wanted to join us. And then there's Dr. Barton Rubenstein, who I met when he was hosting a webinar that DDA, our weekend team Burundi was at and had me speak. And that's how we also got to Mania. I still haven't learning how to say his name. Anyway, that's about me. And everybody is working on really super interesting projects. And of course, they're all related to economic justice. So let's see where to start. Anybody want to be the first guinea pig? I'm going to pick Sage.
Well, excellent. Thank you so much for letting me be here with you today. This is super cool. I think what we can say is what is happening right now, as far as economic justice is concerned, is not working, right? So I think, and I'm sorry to start with an obvious point, but the irony is we just keep doing more of what is not working. And I see this in bureaucracy. I see it in business. Everybody, it's like the war on drugs, right? Everybody knows the war on drugs is not working, but yet we just keep doing the war on drugs. And this is, as they say, the definition of insanity, right? And so I don't know what is going to change the paradigm, but I can tell you one thing: if we don't change the paradigm, nothing is going to change, nothing. And so interestingly, I have developed more and more friends who are communists. So communism is an interesting topic that is coming up in the 20s of the 21st century here. People are not afraid to be communist right now in America. I mean, all of our best, China is this huge communist country, right? I mean, they wouldn't say it's an ideal communism, but it is. And so we have the left on the communist realm. And then I have friends that are libertarians who are like, they're on the other side of the realm of just like, let's just let it all go. And I'm here to tell you, I'm down for it all. I'd like to see it all. I'd like to, because all I know is for 100%, what we're doing now is not working. So I'll take anything, communism, libertarian, you name it. I want to see it. I want to see experimentation and innovation, because this is not working.
Well, it's definitely a smorgasbord. And thanks to the benefit of modern technology and Zoom and all this, we can just like experiment with everything because
Yeah, but the funny thing is we're not.
right.
I mean, we just are just getting deeper and deeper in the same muck, you
It
know.
gets scarier and scarier and worser and worser.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. Is it worse than the Civil War? I don't know.
Well,
I don't. I always get tired of like, this is the worst time in history. Oh, really?
yeah,
There's been some pretty crappy times in history.
I found myself being fascinated with films about the medieval times and thinking, you know what? It's not a whole lot different. So, we have the serfs and the lords.
Well, that's
and,
true. But we
and
have
I'm a serf.
penicillin. We have,
Well,
you know,
okay.
I mean, it's different.
But-
I'm sorry. I'm not one of these doomsdayers. Okay. I mean, I get it. Things suck, but
Yeah.
it is not the Middle Ages. It is
Well,
not
but
the
we do
Civil
have a
War.
plague, you could say. We
Yeah.
have a
And we
plague.
also have mRNA to cure it.
Yes.
We are not in the Middle Ages.
Well, we have people of middle-aged mentality, maybe.
Oh
is a
yeah,
good way.
nothing ever changes for sure. Yeah, in spite of all our technology, yes, obviously we have not gotten over the blatant classism and racism.
Yeah.
I don't think I still think that the ideas of Jesus are going right over the head of everybody. 2,000 years later, nobody's getting anything from what Jesus said 2,000 years ago. So yeah, no, humans have not changed at all. But I mean, I'm glad I live now than
Yeah.
in the Middle Ages. I mean, right? I mean, it would be cool to live
That
in the
was
Middle
always
Ages.
my least favorite time period to think about. I always thought I'd be like being a pioneer woman crossing the plains in a covered
happy.
wagon, but I don't know about that
Just
either.
Advil. I'm glad I live in the era of Advil. Can you imagine? Holy cow.
We'll
Can I
see.
share? You want me to share
Yeah.
a little bit, Jana? Yeah, so kind of our perspective with the revival of the Poor People's Campaign is that we feel the people have the answers, right? And that the problem right now is you have a group of elitists and people in power that want to hold on to that power instead of representing, and you have voter suppression, you have the gerrymandering and locking in that power. And then you have like Sage was saying, you have all these systems that are completely, they're working just fine. They're working how they were designed to work. And so we believe that the people that are impacted by these issues that have had to survive, when 40% of this country is at or below the poverty line, 40% of this country has the answers. They know what needs to be done. The problem is they're not being represented. Their voices aren't being heard. And so, and part of that is people, we have this, what we call the 14 steps of moral fusion organizing, where all those different things that Sage is talking about, bring them in, let's talk about it. Let's come as you are. Give us your reasoning. Let's work it out. Let's talk it out. And then we tell the representatives and we give them, and we do have demands. We already have demands. We already have we have our principles and our steps of how we organize, and we have demands. And so the process of bringing all the people together we had 3 goals of changing the false narratives around all that stuff Sage just talked about, like all those things, they are not working. Yeah, they're working just fine for some people, but they're not working for the rest of us. And so changing those false narratives, building power with the people that have the answers, and then, impacting the policy. So it can be done, and it has been done in the past, right? So it's just a matter of all of us coming together, like we is trying to do. And I just want to say how grateful I am. It's my day of being grateful. I try and be grateful all the time, but today particularly for Jana, because it was her reaching out and that started this relationship. And then Rick, it's a spiral, it just keeps going and spiraling and spiraling. And even though we don't see each other regularly, even though we don't, have these communications, just knowing you're there and supporting us and we're supporting you is, I talked with Brian, who's been here several times, and we just love you so much and appreciate so much, and we just are so thankful for this opportunity in this space to come together. And for me, that's the intersectionality. I think I caught Dr. Rubenstein, I caught a little bit of what you were talking earlier about. That's the key, is the intersection and naming those false narratives that are out there, bringing the impacted people together, dealing with the voter suppression, dealing with the threats to our democracy, and that moral fusion. That's the key, is people coming as they are to really that, for me, that's the magic, and I see as we basically doing what the Poor People's Campaign is doing, but just in a slightly different way and on a global level. And so I'm just so appreciative to be here with you to discuss all this. Thank you.
So Mary, I've got a question for you. Like, I think that was the theory of democracy, right? That the people would be in charge, but look where we're at. The people are not in charge. And I think we all can understand that the people do have the answers. So I guess my question is, like, I've seen bits and pieces where the people sometimes get a little say here and there, but mostly that's just like throwing a crumb at us to make us stop revolting and burning crap down. So, I mean, do you have like concrete ways to get the people in power?
Well, the first thing is to take a moral oath of nonviolence, because we're not going to start going and burning things down, that's for sure. And my name is Julie, and I'm also with the Ohio Poor People's Campaign. And I think that that's what we're building here, is we're building the power to come together, to have those conversations with our policymakers, to say that we have taxation without representation is what we have going on. And we are the ones who need to step up and make those policy changes. So I hope that helped answer your question.
Well, it doesn't. I mean, it's interesting, but like the no taxation without representation actually led to violence. And I'm not saying that violence is the answer, but I do think that when we promote that, well, we're always going to protest peacefully, then the people in power are like, well, then whatever. Just walk around outside singing and walking. You can do that all day. But in the meantime, we're going to stay in power. So like, I just don't know. I mean, I don't know the answer. And because I'm not seeing, like, so Black Lives Matter had the largest protests in the history of America. And what they got were more cops. They got nothing. I mean, nothing.
I can add some 2 cents to the conversation. I think, what's happening, our project, which is the Mother Earth Project, and also is the Parachutes for the Planet. I'll just introduce myself briefly. Barton Rubenstein, and co-founder of the Mother Earth Project, which I started with my immediate family about 5 years ago. And we were inspired by the AIDS quilt campaign in the 1980s and 90s, which used these quilts to bring more awareness to this horrible disease. And overnight, I actually spoke and befriended Dr. Ho, who was one of the lead researchers of the HIV research. He said overnight, because of this social awareness campaign, the federal funding just accelerated, and suddenly they were able to find solutions because they had money. So inspired by that, we now distribute parachutes, which are these play parachutes around the world. We're now in about 80 countries, and people decorate them. They get around the parachute, they talk about their issues, they talk about what their concerns in their localities are, and then they take their decorated parachutes to the politicians and say, this is who our community is, and these are the new laws that we need to have made. And we're seeing a lot of successes around the world. I could go on and on about the stories that we have collected. But I think the bottom line is, and we also support Greta's Fridays for Future campaign in a very large way. A lot of the strikers strike with our parachutes now. So the bottom line is the young people have now become environmentalists, and it's really become part of their moral fiber, which is not the case for people our age and older. We're more of the anomalies. So, I mean, the bottom line is people growing up, these young kids, which are 6 years old or 16 years old, within a matter of 10 years are going to be in office, or they're going to be making, they're going to be leading, they're going to be leaders in our world. So whether or not people of our age can figure out a way to change the system, which is what Greta speaks about, we need the systems change, which is in itself a very large idea that I had trouble originally grasping, but now I do completely. So what's going to happen is the kids are going to take over. And yes, you could say, well, there's going to be always negative forces fighting back, and that won't happen. But I really feel like the sustainability and a sustainable planet is going to be a new normal. How it's going to get played out, well, we see it happening already. There's a lot of positive things going on around the world with renewable energy and electric cars. But of course, even if we do everything perfectly in the next 10 to 20 years, our world is going to still suffer a lot of pain. And that's just something that's a reality. But I do think that there is going to be positive change coming from the young people, whether or not the old people are wanting to jump onto that train. I'll stop here.
Yeah, I mean, it's such an overwhelming problem, and it's easy to be all gloom and doom about it, because there is gloom and doom. But I agree, there's positivity, because there are a lot of people who really want to make the change. And I think the youth are really important. And I hear a lot of older people saying, oh, young kids today, young people today, they have it so easy. They don't have to do anything. And yet the young people I'm around are not like that at all. And I went back to school when I was a non-traditional student. So I went back to school when I was 42. So I was on a college campus, and it was Kent State. And it has its reputation. And I suppose I looked a little bit like a soccer mom. But there were people in the class that had chartreuse and pink hair, and it just looked very different from what it looked like in the 70s when I was there before. But I was around all these young people, and that was a bit ago, that were inspired and had hope and had plans and dreams. And so maybe that's youth, but I think there's a lot of reason to hope. But today's been a day of presentations about economic justice and the upside down of it all, and who's in the top, and how people are getting richer on the backs of the poor. And I just think, how can a person think that that's a good way to be? I mean, I just can't understand it. If I had that kind of money, I'd be, who wants it, you know? And it would not be hard for me to think about doing that. So, you know, living simply so that others can simply live. And so it's a big problem, but I can definitely see Sage's point of view too. He's working with the homeless, and talk about a segment of population that totally is misunderstood. And I mean, you can feel sorry for women who are abused and women who are victims of divorce and abuse, and you know, you can feel really badly for them, but there's such a stigma about being homeless and why people find themselves being homeless. But certainly that's going to change more as people who were just 1 or 2 paychecks away from you know, not being able to pay their bills are going to be in that segment.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we have to look at the bigotries in America in particular. I mean, worldwide, but I guess we're talking maybe here in the United States. And the reason, you know, these are predators that run our country, like the Jeff Bezos, the you know, they are all out to, they're out for the kill. That's why they're billionaires. They wouldn't be you're not a billionaire because you have that heart of giving. They are billionaires because they are here to kill. They are doing it through economics. And so that's the kind of people that are running our country, because they are controlling our ruling class through money. And so they are, if you just imagine like just lions, just savage lions running the biggest economy in the world, they're going to do whatever it takes to get the most money, because that's all they care about. That's their whole life. When you're a billionaire, you care about nothing other than money. You can't become a billionaire without caring only about money. It's impossible. It's too much money. And so our entire world is being run by savage billionaires that hate everybody else, that looks down on everybody else. And so it just all rolls downhill. And so, of course, we still have racism. Black people are as hated, I think, in America as they've ever been. And now we're adding classism. It used to be a lot of people were poor, but now we're leaving the poor behind. I mean, look at the cost of a house in America. I think I saw the average cost of a house in America is $408,000. You know, they're hated. They're the minorities, poor people, women, people with disabilities, elderly, hated because they are not seen as respected by the ruling class, which is controlled by savage, brutal killers. So of course this is the world we live in.
There, I finally got myself unmuted. Mary, I was gonna want you to jump in because we, you know, what the Poor People's Campaign has been doing for this reconstruction and the moral fusion and getting all these people together, and like the Pam Garrisons of West Virginia. Boy, wouldn't I would love to see Pam Garrison in a room with Senator Manchin and have her talk some sense into him, because that would be something. You know, because she has grown up with, you know, the family, they've been coal miners. She's not first generation. That's what she grew up with. And she's very well spoken. And if we could just get her in a room with Senator Manchin and have him sit and listen instead of his cronies, there in Congress, talk about what the real problem is and how to fix it, we might get somewhere. What do you think?
Yeah, I have and to respond, I want to share a quote. That's one of, very powerful quote from me anyways. The power for poor people will really mean having the ability, the togetherness, the assertiveness, and the aggressiveness to make the power structures of this nation say yes when they may be desirous in saying no. So that is what the Poor People's Campaign is about, right? It's about building power amongst, we don't know. I heard Reverend Barber talking about the voting, right before the election. He was almost giddy. Like we don't even know what could be possible if everybody, we were part of, why so many low-income people turned out, because we're not the only ones, but we were a big part of it. We texted literally hundreds of thousands of people. And so we don't know what could be possible if we came together.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, you had Move On there, and
Right,
Indivisible, and Black Lives Matter, and clergy. I mean, it was super impressive. And I helped with texting a lot. I just love text banking. That's so easy. Just yeah. And so for me, and it's always about the root causes, about everyone understanding. Like I'm still angry, and I try not to be, and I try not to, because I don't want to give it my energy. I want to put my energy into positive things that will move us forward. But I do have some compassion. And as we say in the campaign, we hold a little corner of our heart for these people that are misguided and don't know, but there's a reason why they're misguided. And if we just shun them and say, oh, they're bad and they're horrible, and then we're part of the problem. Like my opinion, that we're part of the problem. So we have to do the work of changing those false narratives, get to the root cause of why those people think the way they do, right? So if we get to the root cause, our education system, I've learned so much over the past 3, 4, 5 years, like it blows my mind that I did not know, right? So there's reasons why people, they're fed this since the day they were born. And they're fed this and fed and fed and fed until they become a product of their environments. And so if we don't deal with that root cause and help those people, and it is scary. If you knock down one of those bricks off of that wall, that's scary. Their whole world is coming down. So if we don't have compassion for that and help those people and embrace them and help them, now are all of them there's still gonna be plenty of people that don't get it and are nemesis? Absolutely. But the people that are ready to be vulnerable and to question and to be, that's where how our methodology in the Poor People's Campaign, using stories and embracing and creating environments where people feel welcome to come and ask those questions and not be made fun of, and that's for us, it's a radical love, for me, it's a radical love. And it's giving them, the people who are really truly impacted, a place to be, as you say, respected, and to have someone like Reverend Barber right there, and Reverend Liz, and all these people who have, degrees and clout and power, really listening to their story and giving them the safe space to talk about what their life is like and what they've been through. Mm-hmm. And, like, I'm considered poor, but I don't consider myself poor in spirit. And my life, even though I'm poor, is wonderful, and I have opportunities to engage. A lot of people who are poor don't. A lot of people who are rich don't. I mean, just because you're Jeff Bezos is divorced now. So obviously having all the money in the world doesn't mean that you're going to have a great marriage and a great life and not get sick. So Rick, you probably want.
Thanks, Jana. Yeah, I mean, it is very easy to become dejected about this and cynical about the possibility of change. And, you know, I challenge you, Sage, you're doing this work on the ground. I think that you are continuing to do important work and speaking out about these things because there is some possibility of change. Otherwise, you know, you would probably stop, you know. There are people who do not feel like any kind of positive change is possible, and then they kind of drop out. And you know, but I think I personally feel that it is possible to create change, and the way to do it, I mean, there are many strategies for doing it, but one that we are talking about at We the World is working on cultural change and a cultural shift. Because if there becomes a cultural change going on, then even the wealthiest people and the biggest corporations will have to read the writing on the wall. And this is, and it's already happening in little bits. The question is, how can we accelerate? And there are lots of strategies for that. And you know, our strategy is to take a very simple concept that everybody can relate to, the idea of we, and say, you know, the common good, we and the common good is something that can actually make sense and benefit everyone. So, and everybody can relate in a certain way. But so that's, I mean, that's our strategy. There are many different strategies. But this idea of the cultural change is so important. And we talk about the shift going towards we consciousness, where the health and well-being of each person is, and each member of society is considered to be essential to the health and well-being of the whole, and in fact, the survival of the whole. So we have these lessons all around us, right? With COVID, if there's one person who has COVID in a community, then everybody's potentially in danger. The community is in danger because one person has COVID. That is a lesson that people understand. Now, why not expand that? So if one person is homeless in a community, then the community is in danger. It's like hearing some kind of rattle or defect in your car as you're driving. You know, oh, you want to just disregard it? Or is it a symbol of maybe the whole thing is going to fall apart, you know? So if one person is homeless in your community, then you realize that community is in danger. The same thing, if one person is being discriminated against, wow, that means that we're not all in this together, and there's something wrong. So if we can communicate that idea and begin to make that shift towards that we consciousness, then, you know, that's how we're going. What do you think?
You maybe have caught me just at a very pessimistic time in my life, but I am like, so let me tell you, I don't know why. I have a new book coming out. It's like, I don't know. It's actually not exciting at all. Like, I'm like, oh, this doesn't matter. So January 2017, we started a tent village on my land, private property, private money, private everything. It built to 50 tents, okay? Homeless run, they built their own intake. They both built their own security program, their own tri-council, everything homeless run. The city shut it down. I'm still suing the city over that. They shut it down because they were threatening to bankrupt me. So I had to shut it down. So we stayed up for 2 years. Okay. Now I'm back at it again. I have now 2 tents, a tiny house, a camper, and I own a house where there's a couple people living in it. Okay. I can get nothing done. Nothing. Now it's not about the people. Okay. I don't have any problem with conservatives. I don't have any problem with white rural people, urban people. The people are good. The people repeatedly blow me away. If anything, they're the reason I keep doing this, because I see people constantly doing mind-blowingly incredible things. But the system, I have little faith for. And the reason is, okay, so my favorite hero is John Brown. He was an Akronite. John Brown probably he was the spark that caused the Civil War that ended chattel slavery. Okay, so amazing, right? John Brown, my favorite hero. You know what we got? We got the 13th Amendment, where we ended slavery except for people that were imprisoned. And so you know what we did? We took out chattel slavery and we just imprisoned them in our prisons, and we made a speck of a white piece of dust a felony. And now we have slaves in our prison system. And so I don't see any hope in the system. I don't. I just don't see any. I mean, every once in a while they'll throw us a bone. So the guy, he killed that guy, the cop that killed the guy with his knee on the neck for 7 minutes. He went to prison. They just threw us that to make us stop like pushing on the system. I don't see hope for the system. I just don't. I'm so sorry.
I hear you, and it can be very discouraging. And I'm glad you're still out there despite being.
I do it for you guys. You guys are so wonderful. Like, I listen to your hope and resiliency, and I'm like, holy cow, these are good humans. And the youth that they're talking about, oh my gosh, that generation, they blow me away. I do it for you, but I have no hope.
Okay, so you heard that call to action, right, Mary and Dr. Barton and Julia and Jana?
Yeah.
Let's start making it seem like things will change and have that impact that will start to give Sage some hope.
Yeah, well, I do have different feelings about our situation. I think that lack of hope is really a function of, as Greta said, hope comes through action. Now, I know Sage said that he's doing so many things and he's fighting so many things against his own city government about his stuff being shut down. And that's very unfortunate. And it's obviously an uphill battle where you are. And I am very sorry to hear that. But one of my big quotes from Nelson Mandela says, "It always seems impossible until it's done." I think behavior can change very rapidly. I grew up thinking the exact opposite, but I have seen that in the course of the last 5 years, that my own lexicon of speaking, the way I talk about people, the way, I realized for my whole life that I didn't think I was racist. Now I realize that many of the things that I did had subtle racism part of it. There's so many things, so much self-discovery that I have had personally, and through the help of my own children. I think there's a lot of change going on. I think behavior is changing very rapidly in this country. Whether that will translate to removing Jeff Bezos from power, the power of the billionaires. I do think that billionaires now are not put up on a pedestal as they used to be, where everybody just wanted to be a billionaire. I think people see the corruption that the billionaires have done to take away the power of people. I think there's a lot of realization that's going on. And I think more than the realization, I think people realize that their action, being in the streets, striking, brings power to them. And they realize, and also being part of these global organizations like yours, like mine, the Mother Earth Project. It is powerful. I speak to this one climate striker in Guilin, China, and she's so appreciative that she's connected to our community. So there's all these small voices that are given voice. So I actually do have hope. Now, that doesn't exclude me from being depressed from time to time. You know, when I go to strikes, I feel uplifted, but immediately afterwards, I feel there's a futility to it all, because it's hard for me to imagine the power of the people. But I know that the AIDS campaign was an extremely successful social awareness campaign. So I know this has already happened. We're not inventing the wheel here. We know that these things can happen and can happen very quickly. And yes, there will be a lot of pushback, but the whole world is in this game together. So whether it's going to happen in the next 10 years or 20, it's happening. I mean, even if we have a new elected president that will try to support coal, just to give you an example, it's not going to happen because coal is no longer economically viable. Renewables are cheaper. So I personally think, as it relates to West Virginia, that this is the perfect opportunity to prove to the country that we can take this subculture in West Virginia and create a renewable, reimagine the world. And if we can do it successfully, then we basically solved the whole problem, because then we know that if we've taken the worst area that's completely dependent on coal and reinvented it, that we can do the same thing at a lesser degree in other states around the country.
We haven't heard from Julia in a while. You want to say anything, Julia?
I thank you very much. Doctor, I think you're exactly right. There's lots of hope out there. And I think the more that we continue doing each of these little projects, the more we'll see it appear in front of us and the more it will evolve. And the more we have these get-togethers. Thank you all so much for having this tonight. What a great discussion. And this is how things evolve. And these are how things happen, is by all of us gathering and coming together and building our power and deciding we're going to change that policy and legislation and making it happen. And I really believe we can all do that. And with good intentions, based in love, always starting in love.
And that's what we're all starting with, even if some of us are at less loving stages. Because I mean, you can't, it's realistic to see it being bad, but it's also realistic to see the good. And for me, choosing to see the good helps me to do more good. And so it's a motivation thing. And I think a lot of people are at that point. And just like being able to be a part of We the World like this helps me so much to feel like I can do something. I may not have great visions of starting my own project or, you know, being able to do what Reverend Barber does or Sage does, or, you know, Dr. Barton and being a sculptor and all that. But you know what? I can meet people and I can, you know, hope that some of my enthusiasm for We the World can rub off on somebody else and you know, just make a difference. Like this morning we had our weekend team presentations. Last year at this time we only had one person in the weekend group, and she's in Botswana. Her name is Angelina, and there was just one person. And now a year later we have 7 people, and 7 new people that I know in Africa and Pakistan who are doing amazing things in their community. They're activists. Maybe they had a little bit of a head start because of their families or where they were or what opportunities they had, but they've turned that around into saying, I have to help my people. I have to help my community. I have to do what I can. And just chance meeting like with Mary, you know, I'm able to make a connection and then it grows. And that's how it will all grow. And, you know, maybe happy, positive enthusiasm will get more people to join it.
And
That's
I
what
think
hope.
the more of us that get together, we help each other through the harder times. We
Right.
all face that, where we have strong times and when we're feeling a little sad and overwhelmed. And I think when you're in a big group and the more we collaborate together, part of building that power is showing up for support. I mean, that's another part of our Poor People's Campaign. And Jana, you know this as well, as we have our spiritual council branch, and we also have our sharing and healing circles where we do that. And we are able to show up for each other. And we have trainings on that, on how, compassion and patience and how to help people and how to show up for people and talk with them and listen to them. So, again, it's all connected.
Well, see, I don't think Sage has that. And
Well,
that's why
yeah,
I wanted to
yeah.
have him join with We the World, because I have known about Sage and his work, and I wanted to reach out to him, but I was scared because I'm kind of shy. But, he had a birthday, so I could say happy birthday, and then I could take it a step further. And I just want to get more and more people to help Sage, because he's doing great work, and he's doing it pretty much by himself. And it makes a difference when you're with a group of people who are with you. Like Dr. Barton has his team, and we have our team, and the Poor People's Campaign has their team. But Sage is kind of out there, just doing this work and feeling it. I mean, I'm an empath, so when other people are in pain, I'm in pain. And I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's
hard.
that's where my mind went as well. Like Sage is like, he's on the front line, right?
Yeah.
And he is, it's like you have the people that we have to help, like, and that are in survival mode, right? So he's right there with those people. He's helping those people literally to survive.
He's a frontline worker.
Yeah. And so our job is to come together and support him and be there to say, you know what, in that fight, because we had a very similar situation in Cincinnati. We moved a homeless population, houseless, I try and say houseless, 4 times because they kept moving the line. They said, oh, you can't have a tent here beyond this line. So we moved them. Oh, no, we moved the line. So we moved them again. Then we moved them to a private property. And we're like, sorry, you can't. Oh, they were so mad that they couldn't touch these people. And that's sad, right? How sad.
That's like a group home for disabled people.
Oh my
It's the same thing. We don't want disabled people around us. We don't want
But
those
what was
people.
crazy was the community loved them. They came out that night and they were meeting with them. They were helping them. These people were getting support by the very community that the park was in, but it was the city that said no. And they passed the law and they got sued, just like they just do it. So it's we need to come together. The same things are happening in our community in Cincinnati, is happening in Akron, is happening all across this country. And when we come together and support each other, then they are able to keep helping those people in survival mode. And then we're able to do all the other stuff that needs to be done to build the power. And that builds power, right? If we come together with Sage and we come together with other people, and that's the power. That's that they won't be able to. And like the statistics that say you only have to bring together like 2.5 to 3% of the population around a certain issue and get people, and the success rate on that issue is like, I think it's like extremely high, that you will have movement on that issue if you can mobilize a very small, relatively small percentage of people. So it has been that. And just think of all the successes. If they had given up on slavery, or if they had given up on women's rights, if they had given up on all these things that came before us, it's not possible until it is. And so we have to use our human capital, I guess, to to build together, to build that infrastructure to support the sages and support.
Our charisma.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, this is perfect for Dr. Barton because on the 24th, they're doing a big event. And he had asked me to look into organizations and suggest organizations here in Ohio that would, he's giving out free parachutes, you know, you'd think that would be easy. and yeah, so anyway, Poor People's Campaign, Akron, you know, we gotta do something to help bring us all together to making a change. You want to say anything to that, Dr. Barton?
Well, you know, I'd just like to say that I'm really honored to be a part of this call. You know, in 2015, our family was composting and recycling. And every single time we did something, it was just another conversation. We wanted to do more, got rid of the paper in our house. We have, you know, cloth napkins. A couple of us became vegetarians, then vegans. We got electric cars, we got solar panels, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on. But every time we did something, it was just sort of like, you know, what can we do more? This is not enough. And we just started reaching out to communities. And then we were inspired by the the Quilts Project. And so we found the sweet spot somehow with conversations with hundreds of people around the world. And people got it immediately, and they understood that it wasn't just an art project, but it was a way to bring communities together. They sit down around the parachute, they have a conversation, they get to know each personal story, and it's powerful. And the funny thing is I was doing this project for about a year, and I actually had not participated in the event myself. I had been just organizing so many, and I did it around like the Brazilian embassy one night when they were protesting all the tearing down of the Amazon, and they were, you might remember that. We were in, I live in Washington, DC, so we did it in front of the embassy, and it was just such a powerful moment for me. So I tell you these stories because I really feel like, you know, art can actually empower people, especially people that are shy, people that feel they do not have a voice that's of value. And we have shown over and over that people do have voices, and they are voices of value. You know, having said all those wonderful things, you know, we do have a big climate strike that is going to happen a week Friday around the world. We are expecting many, many millions of people to hit the streets, many of them with signs, many with parachutes. We do have a big effort going on in Glasgow this fall in November as well. And I have a lot of communities around the world that are gearing up for that. We do ship free parachutes. And that's just our way of just sort of activating these communities. It seems so simple. We are a very small organization, but we feel like we are helping to make a difference. You know, you don't know for sure ever.
Can you say a little bit more about the parachutes? Some people are wondering
Sure.
what they're made out of, and what is the exact symbology that you're going for there?
Thank you for that question. So the Parachutes for the Planet is, these parachutes are about 12 feet in diameter or 4 meters in diameter. They're made out of recyclable plastic, which was a big decision because we decided, well, first of all, using cotton also has a carbon footprint, and we wanted these parachutes to endure from one strike to the next into the future. So it was a tough decision, but it was a decision made by the youth actually in the end, not me. Most of the decisions on our website, which is motherearthproject.org/parachutes, tells you all the ideas about how to run an event, how to generally design your parachute, basically with a large central image that has visibility from larger distances, and then close up you can see all the individual messaging of people talking about what their next sustainable action will be, or collectively. So originally it was just about environmental awareness. But I kept on being told that's not enough, that's not enough. And I was very afraid to get into the world arena of politics But now we're completely 100% focused on these parachutes demanding better climate laws. That is the one and only focus. I mean, obviously we want people to use less plastic and all the other R's, reuse, repurpose. But in the end, the political actions are going to make the biggest difference most quickly. And we are seeing, I mean, I'll just give you one very large impact that we had with our parachutes. The Pope came to Panama City in Panama, and we sent, I think it was 20 or 40 parachutes to the different parishes in that country. They decorated them, and then the final event, the Pope was surrounded with all these parachutes inside the stadium. And within a couple months, he took a parachute back with him to the Vatican City. And within a couple months, he declared that the climate emergency was a very pressing issue. And he encouraged all of his followers, which are, I think, like over 1 billion, to start paying attention to this. So, you know, whether or not that was how we influenced his making that decision, no one will ever know. But, you know, we like to feel like we were a part of that because. So that's one story. And, you know, in Canada, they have used parachutes to surround the parliament buildings, and now they have carbon pricing, which is a major legislative accomplishment for the country of Canada. And the stories continue. So we do think that there are positive things. I mean, obviously the EU is the jet setters of the climate, of new climate legislation. And it'd be great for the US to take a leadership role. And that's why we've been focusing a lot of our parachute project in the US recently, even though we still continue to, I just sent parachutes to Crete, Greece this morning. So, and Pakistan. So, everyone is interested in this project. Not the parachute project, but the project of making our world a sustainable place to live.
Right. So I wanted to read a comment that came in, and then let's go around and see how people can get involved with each person on this panel. But the comment is, these grassroots organizations and the youth are rising at this time. This is from Stephanie Schuller. So she says, these grassroots organizations and the youth are rising at this time. Thank you all for your hope and encouraging us all to continue trying to attain our regenerative well-being. And this is Stephanie in Toronto, Canada, and the Maui Aloha Project.org. And Dr. Barton, how can people get in touch with you or connect with you to support the work you're doing? And then we'll go around with everybody to do that.
Okay. Thank you for that. I did put in the chat bar, I'm not sure whether that's available to the rest of the listeners, but if you go to motherearthproject.org/parachutes, you'll have everything you'll need, or you can go to motherearthproject.org/free-parachutes. Both will show you the way. It's a website that's been iterated hundreds of times from all the feedback that we get around the world. So it's been basically built by the people, if you will. And we're very proud to have somehow found the sweet spot in the hearts of all these climate conscious citizens of the planet.
Yeah, that's great. Shall we go to you next, Mary? How do people support the work that you're doing? And I'm not sure if it's going to be the same as Julia, but anyway, yeah, go ahead, Mary.
Yeah, maybe I could cover one, and then maybe Julia can do kind of how to get involved in Ohio, and I'll do kind of the national. So if you go to thirdreconstruction.org, it's the national website for the Poor People's Campaign. And right now we have all different, there's some like older dates on it, but there's a lot of information about the third Reconstruction resolution that is actually in Congress right now. And it's, we take a holistic approach. We don't just address one issue. We always address them together: poverty, racism, militarism, ecological devastation, and the corrupt moral narrative of religious nationalism. So go thirdreconstruction.org. There'll be things that you can take action. You can take selfies, you can send letters, you can sign up for the Poor People's Campaign so you get information from your state. There's over 40 states now that have coordinating committees. So think of, if you're familiar with the Resurrection City, basically Resurrection City is in each state that has a Poor People's Campaign. Resurrection City is the actual people on the ground doing the work. And so every state that has a campaign has a Facebook page and has an email. And once you sign up through the national website, and each campaign also has their own page on that website as well. If you go under take action, so you can find out, and they're all in different stages of evolution of the campaigns, because they're run by people that are impacted. So life happens and things happen. So basically it's a movement, and it will only move as fast as the people involved. So
and I just want to say, by the way, thank you for being part of this. And also I'm so happy that that you came through your health issues and health crisis, I believe. So it's really, really good to see you healthy and spirited, and you're back.
Yes, and it was the people, right? I felt so much love and so much from the power of the movement, and people like you and Jana and everyone. So thank you.
Thank you. And do you want to add to that, Julia?
Sure.
Julia, yes.
Just to kind of piggyback off of what Mary said, she talked about the national campaign. And if you go to poorpeoplescampaign.org, and under the Take Action button, it will pull up each state's page. And the Ohio Poor People's Campaign does have a page. So it'll give you a little information about a pledge card that we have, an introductory survey, general information about the Poor People's Campaign. And it also talks a little bit about the different regions of Ohio. We have a Northwest region, a Central region, a Northeast region. We have an Appalachia Facebook page and region, and a Southwest region. And we have monthly meetings where we all gather together and talk about what's going on in that particular region. And from there, we can talk to people about maybe if they'd like to take a more active role in the Poor People's Campaign. And we bring that to our coordinating committee, and we build our power. And that's how things have been working at the Ohio Poor People's Campaign. And again, thank you so much for holding this forum this evening. It's been wonderful to be a part of it.
Well, thank you. And how about you, Sage? How can people show you a little bit of love and support
I
for
feel
what
like
you're
this was
doing?
a Sage support group. You guys are so sweet, so lovely. Thank you for you are wonderful, truly wonderful humans. I'm so glad the earth has you. While I might be pessimistic about systemic change, I am absolutely positive about the people. The people are it. So my newest book is coming out on my birthday this year. I'm going to be 50 years old. The Homeless Activist. And this is like 460 pages of how and why you can be a homeless activist. You can do everything from making blessing bags. Somebody just put up a blessing box on my property. We're going to christen it or whatever next week. But the idea, it's like one of those little libraries that, where you put books in, but this is going to be for food. So that's a beautiful example of something you can do. You can do that to all the way up holding illegal opiate injection houses. I've done it all. I've done it all. So it's all in this book. You can learn how to do it. And if you go to thehomelessactivist.com, when it launches, I got a ton of free offers, discounts, and the whole thing. So if you want this book, you should go to thehomelessactivist.com, sign up, and you'll get some sweet deals.
All right, that sounds good. And Jana, what do you want to say at the end here?
I just love you all. This has been so much fun, and it's been a long day. I'm not used to talking very much because I'm usually by myself, just talking to my dog. But I've been doing presentations all day, which usually scare me. But oh, this has just been fabulous, and I think you're all wonderful humans myself. So I'm glad we had this chance to talk and share. And, you know, forward together, not one step back.
That sounds good. And for people who may want to know more and get involved with We the World, the easiest web address to remember, right? We.net, the network of we. So you can find out the whole schedule of all of these 11 days of Global Unity panels, events, campaigns, and the campaigns go all year round. So there's lots of ways to get involved. And I think we accomplished what we like to do with all of our events, which is 3 things: to inspire, inform, and involve, right? 3 I's: inspire, inform, and involve, that make a we. So we can go from a me society to a we society.
That's our thing we do at the end of every meeting.
Really?
No,
Oh, yes.
I'm saying
Us.
at Poor People's Campaign, we go forward together, not one step back. And we do
Right.
it, it's like in chant form. And but I was saying that this is our thing we do. So
And I'll just say what we do on these Zoom calls is, you know, the parachute is the power of the people, and bringing everyone around the parachute. You pick it up, you play with it, you sing with it, you dance with it. So what we do is everyone puts their hands out like this, like they're holding a handle of a parachute. And we pretend that we're holding the same parachute all around the world, and we shake it together. And that sort of makes you feel like you feel viscerally like you're connected to each other.
I do. I got chills up and down my spine. I feel it.
I feel it.
And Sage, what do you do?
I just clean up syringes and trash. I empty out urine buckets. That's what I do.
Oh, Sage, we got to help you.
No, I'm good. I don't do anything fun. I just get to work. I just go out. I just work.
Well, at least I wish you happy birthday on your
Thank you.
birthday. So
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
Exactly. All right,
Thank
this
you.
has been great, and it's been real. So
It
I
has
appreciate
been.
it. I appreciate
Thank you
it.
so much.
Okay,
Thank you,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone. Thank
Great
you.
pleasure.
Good night.
bye-bye.